Well, I think it's time to talk about near vertical incident skywave. And there's no better way to do that than starting with a simple Google search. So let's ask Google, what is a NVIS antenna? And thanks to some AI, it tells us that it's a near vertical incident skywave antenna is a low power antenna that's used in communication systems that cover up to 300 miles. NVIS antennas are used to provide usable signals over medium distances between ground wave and conventional skywave. This is because NVIS radio waves travel near vertically upwards to the ionosphere where they're refracted back down, and usable signals can be received within a circular region of up to 400 miles. So thank you AI and their overviews, and that's what it is. So now let's go and look at some photos. And again, I don't think I'm doing anything super interesting because this has all been done many times before, but let's just get it all in one video. So normally when you want to transmit, some people want to go as far distance as possible. That's what's known as DX. And depending on how your antenna is configured, you can bounce your radio waves off of the ionosphere at different distances, which then reflects your signal back down. In my case, I want something that's for reliable local and regional communications. In my case, this year, I want to have a NVIS antenna specifically for NVIS that covers both the 80 and 40 meter amateur radio bands for ARRL Field Day coming up on June 22 and June 23 of 2024. Yes, it's not the last full weekend of the month of June, which is technically the 29th and 30th, but if you look at UTC time as well as other things going on in the world, that is why it is June 22 and 23 this year instead of, in this case, it would have been June 29 and 30. So that's the goal. So NVIS antenna for that. And so if we continue reading along in the Wikipedia page, there's a military antenna called the AS2259, which is very well documented. And there's some ways that you can modify that type of design for use on amateur radio frequencies. So let's look at what the AS2259 actually looks like. So the key thing here with this military antenna is that it is really suitable for different spectrum. It's roughly resonant in the 6.2 and 9.3 megahertz bands, which are more for commercial and military use, and you could use an antenna tuner to get it to work on other frequencies. In my case, I like to operate low power, as you'll see in this video, and I always find that a resonant antenna usually is the most efficient. So rather than having an antenna for 6.2 and 9.3 megahertz, in my case, I want it to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 7.1 and 3.8 megahertz. Now, there's one challenge with that. Doing a calculation for an antenna that would be a dipole for the amateur 3.8 megahertz band would be roughly this equation. So 234 divided by 3.8. That means that either side of the antenna would be around 61.5 feet, which would mean that the total length of the antenna would be about 123 foot. If we looked at doing the same equation for the amateur 40 meter band, that antenna would be 32 and 3/4 foot or so on either side, times it by 2. That means that the antenna will be 65 or close to 66 feet. So ideally, I would rather have an antenna that takes up roughly about 66 feet or so, 70 feet in a circle. So the first thing I need to do is figure out how I am going to shrink a 130-foot antenna down into roughly half the space. And so what I've decided to do is use what is called a loading coil. So let's do a quick Google search again, loading coil inductor calculator. So firstly, we're going to start here, actually. That's the wrong length. There we go. Dipole. Same math, but so here we go. So I want an antenna, let's just call it 80 feet. The way that this is set up, the reason you put a coil towards the end of a dipole is it creates better efficiency for your antenna to radiate better than putting it towards the middle. So in my case, I'm going to locate the loading coil roughly 30 foot from the center. I'm going to use 16 gauge wire, which I think is around 0.640, somewhere around there, inches diameter. And let's say I'll make my design frequency for 3.862, only because you'll see that later in the video. That's happened to be where I tuned things to, and magically that's where the SWR was lowest. So let's just go with that. So to make this coil, basically what I will need is a coil that has around 50 microhenries of inductance. And so how do we figure out how to make a coil for roughly around 50 microhenries? We click that link, go to this calculator, and we're going to say single layer coil. And I've already done all this math to get the desired outcome, but on a form of 2.5 inches and a piece of PVC that is 7 inches length, I came up with 53 turns, because again, I've already done the math, and that gives me 54 microhenries. So that's almost exactly. Again, it doesn't really need to be 53, 54, 55 turns. What you'll notice if we make a couple changes here, going back to the original calculator, here we have a design of 49.9. If I was to change maybe the distance from the center, let's say 29 foot, it's going to change it just slightly downwards. Maybe if I placed it a little further away, 31 foot, changes it to 56 microhenries. Let's say, again, if we go back here, if we change it from 53 to 50, 48 microhenries. Maybe if we go to 55 turns, 58. So again, it's all roughly in the same general neighborhood. So we kind of have an idea of where we want to start. So now that I've built the antenna, let's actually go and take a look at this NVIS antenna set up right now for 80 meters, and let's see how it performs using very low power. All right, well, it's nighttime here in K2GOG Poughkeepsie land. I finally have had a spare extra moment to finish tuning my latest portable antenna, which will be part of this upcoming field day, June 22 and June 23. I wanted a NVIS antenna for 80 and 40 meters. I already tuned the 40 meter elements, and then I figured I'd do the 80 meter ones. And so let's walk over while I have some light out here. This is a 15-foot tripod. Again, sorry, it's a little dark here. But up at the top is the feed point. It's a 1-to-1 balun that I created, mounted in a electrical enclosure. I'll show you what that looks like in some light. But while it is still a little light out here, let me explain the element. So I wanted this to be about 40 foot on each leg. And how I was able to accomplish that was through the use of a loading coil. The 40 meter leg is a little over 30 foot. And so with some power cord, I can get both around the same length. So what I did, I ran the calculations. This is a 2.5 inch piece of PVC, 7 inches long. I have 53 turns of 16 gauge primary wire. Roughly this is equal to about 50 microhenries of inductance. And from the loading coil to the feed point is calculated at 30 foot. And then from the end of the coil to the end here, and you always want to put your loading coil towards the far end so you have maximum radiation for the antenna. And so you can see the power cord here as a makeshift insulator. And then I've doubled backed over itself the additional wire, because when I first deployed this, the resonance was at 3.49 megahertz or so. And so I brought it back up over itself to about 2 feet. And that dropped me to a 1.5 to 1 SWR at 3862. And so that's the antenna. And I'll just follow the power cord here. Probably can't see it too well because it's black. But the end is about 6 foot off the ground on both legs. So 6 foot at the end, 15 foot at the center. If I put a little bit more tension, I could probably get this a little further off the ground. But again, I wanted some ground reflection to do NVIS. And as you'll hear, my preliminary signal reports were actually quite favorable. So it tells me that this is doing exactly what I wanted. So let me get back into putting this contraption away and look for the second video, which I will have the 80 and 40 meter elements deployed in the backyard. And I'll give it some on-the-air tests. So 73 for now. This is Steve, K2GOG.
Alpha Mike Zulu, what's your call, sir? Okay, Kilo Delta 2, Alpha Mike Zulu. Sorry about that. I had a little power failure, which is why it cut out in midstream there. All right, no problem. Let me get the KD2 Alpha Mike Zulu first. Name here is Marshall. I'm at Montauk Point, New York, on the beginning of Long Island here, as we locals like to say. And I got you here running about a 5 over S9. Give me the QTH in your name, please. Of course, Marshall. KD2AMZ, my name is Mike, and my QTH is Seacliff, New York. NASA Queens line, not too far. Copy the Montauk Point. Marshall, can you give me your call sign again? Whiskey 2, Fox India Delta. QSL, Mike? Whiskey 2 what? Foxtrot India Delta. France, Italy, Denmark. Copy. Whiskey 2, Fox India Delta. Marshall. Copy. Montauk Point. I'm just playing around. And I heard you guys talking, and I heard Montauk Point, and I figured, how can I resist speaking to a local guy? Yeah, QSL. Stand by, Mike. K2GOG. I think I got that right. Let's bring you in here for a minute or two. W2FID. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Name here is Steve. I'm located up here in Poughkeepsie. I'm originally from Long Island, and much like the other gentleman, I heard Montauk Point, and I thought I can't resist. And then added bonus, I heard Seacliff. I used to live in Glen Head, so very familiar with the area. I'm, again, up here in Poughkeepsie. I'm running 2.5 watts into a newly created / tuned loaded NVIS 80 meter antenna about 15 foot off the ground. So that's what I'm using. Back over to you, and thanks for letting me jump in.
Okay, Steve, I had tough copy on you there. What's the QTH? Go ahead.
Let me raise my power up to 5 watts. 5 watts. Poughkeepsie, up along the Hudson River, Poughkeepsie, New York. Over.
QSL. Oh, you're working QRP. No wonder you're at about the level of the static. Poughkeepsie, I know just where you are. My daughter's in Kingston, so matter of fact, she was in Poughkeepsie today. Now that I think of it, I'm not going to give you a good signal report because you're at the level of the static here. So, what kind of radio you got there, Steve?
I'm holding in my hand the ICOM 705 running off of its internal battery pack. I was lazy. Didn't want to drag the external battery, so I'm running, now I'm at 5 watts. I started at 2. Back to you, and very good. Yeah, Kingston's about 30 minutes north of me.
Yeah, I got 5 watts, and Kingston's a little, about 5 miles from you, yeah. Okay, let's bring Mike back in. KD2AMZ, W2FID. I'm going to make this my last one, Mike. I heard you guys jump in, so I figured we'd acknowledge you. I don't know if Steve, are you still in here?
Roger.
The other Steve,
in Poughkeepsie.
KD2, very fancy, but if everybody's leaving, I might as well leave myself and get back to relaxing. So, Marshall, thank you for picking me up. Since you're signing, I'll leave it at that. The station up in Kingston, I just barely got you above the noise level. My is Seacliff, New York, on the North Shore of Long Island, approximately 20 miles east of New York City.
Okay, Mike, hang in there. You got Bob, KA2OWZ, is going to stay with you for a while. And Steve, again, normally this is not a band for that type of power, at least here. But tonight it's really rough. 7-3s to both you guys, and I'll turn you over to Bob, KA2OWZ. And maybe Steve, W2SFC, are you still in here? No, you signed. Go ahead, Bob. Pick the guys up. I'll talk to you tomorrow evening. W2FID at Montauk Point, New York. Good evening, fellas.
Okay, W2FID, KD2MZ. Bob, this is Mike, KD2AMZ, and I copy you as Kilo Alpha 2 Oscar Whiskey Zebra. Do I copy correct?
You got it right?
Okay, Bob. My QTH here is Seacliff, New York.
Seacliff, New York. I'm in North New Jersey, about 50 miles.
20 miles east of New York City. What is your QTH, Bob?
Okay. I'm on Box, so I am 50 miles northwest of New York City, up in the northern part of New Jersey. Roger.
Copy, Northern Jersey. Very good, sir. Very good, sir. Steve, I can barely hear you. I can understand maybe how Bob could hear you up in North Jersey, especially QRP. And it said running on 80 meters QRP. It's a little on the rough side, but hey, you're kind of making it.
All right, let's see if Steve's still in there. Kilo 2 GOG, KA2OWZ.
Yeah, I'm still here, just listening. Like I said, I'm running a NVIS antenna, NVIS, 15 foot off the ground, and 5 watts. Conditions are rough. That's why I wanted to try it on this rainy, miserable day. So I don't want to hold it up. Thank you for letting me jump in. Have a great day, and maybe I'll catch you next time I'm motivated to run higher power. This is K2GOG. I'll be clear and listening out.
Okay, Steve, you don't have to go because I copy you very well. I actually copy a 5x9 here in Oak Ridge when you went to 5 watts. When you were on a lower power, I could barely hear you, but you only came up a couple of watts, and it was like triple in strength. So whatever you're using is working good here, sounding good. I'm running 200 watts into a low antenna also. It's a 52-foot long wire, and it's only 12 feet off the ground. Over to you, Steve, and then I'll pick Mike up.
All right, well, thanks for digging me out, and again, always appreciative. Just getting a little miserable out here, so I'm just going to close things up. But again, thanks, everyone, and maybe I'll catch you if anyone's going to Nearfest next week. I'll be up there. So 73, everyone, have a good evening. This is K2GOG Steve in Poughkeepsie. Clear.
Okay, Steve. Well, you got a great signal for me. I can't believe how strong you are. Very good. Catch you later, Steve. Nice to meet you. And I'll throw it back to Mike, KD2AMZ. There's KA2OWZ.